Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back, and welcome if this is your first time to my channel. I know I've done a lot of sort of what am I going to read in 2023 videos, and a lot of people have too. There's at least one more that I have to do today, and I've been taking some time to think about this because I wanted to make sure that I chose books that were kind of nagging at me for some reason to finish, or books that were really calling me forward to read. The topic for today is the nonfiction books that I would like to prioritize in 2024. Now, I know you're thinking, are you not going to do we'd pick your nonfiction TBR for the quarter? And yes, I am. And I might not get to all of these. I think there are 11 on the list, which with the additional quarterly nonfiction read picks that you choose, that would be 15, right? I'm not great at math, but I'm pretty sure that would be 15. So that would be a little bit more than one a month. And I do feel like that is possible for me. Now, I could get all clogged up. There's no question with BookTube Prize, although not this quarter, and with other things in my life. It's very possible that I will not get all of these read, but I'd like to commit to the possibility of having these reads off my TBR and off my backlist in some cases so that I can kind of have a steady round of nonfiction reading, a steady focus on it once a month, and hopefully get a couple of these off my NetGalley shelf. Some of them are short, some of them I feel like will be really quick reads, and some of them will probably be a little bit longer. So let's talk about the one that I am intentionally making longer. Let's start with that one. And that is The Desire Map by Danielle Laporte, A Guide to Creating Goals with Soul. I bought this when it first came out in 2014. I followed Danielle Laporte, and I actually had some friends that went through some of her trainings. But she's a pretty bold speaker, and she really does examine how women can come to this sort of inner peace and fulfillment and self-compassion and all those good things that we all want. And then sometimes we don't intentionally strive to get them. So she says her definition of holistic is the place where ambition meets inner peace, consciousness meets cash, grace can be gritty, and compassion abounds. A lot of people have really enjoyed her, and a couple of friends of mine have completed one of her programs and really, really enjoyed her too. But here's why this is going to take me all year, because I plan to spread this out and do like one chapter a month. Okay. There is a book one, which is the theory, which I'll probably read through fairly fast because it's not one exercise a month. And then book two is the workbook. So there's 10, maybe 10 complete kinds of, sections, if you will. That's what I'm going to do with this. And that'll be my year-long goal. I'm not taking at this point, any formal training for my coaching credential or my renewal, essentially, because I've already got what I need to renew in 2.5 years. And I am really wanting to just focus on some, I don't know, self-examination stuff. And don't forget, I'm reading the one that you all picked too. So both of those will probably go a little bit hand in hand. And that'll be another nonfiction read that I finish. The next category is memoirs. This one did not get chosen in the first quarter, but it's still been on my mind. And a couple of people have been talking to me about it and said, why haven't you read this yet? So I would like to prioritize this in 2024. This is Michelle Obama's second memoir. This one, she teaches wisdom and shares wisdom and powerful strategies for staying hopeful and balanced in an uncertain world. There's just a lot of chaos, and I think that this would be a good read for me this year. And again, I really like to do that. I recently hauled this, but you know how special it is for me. So I definitely want to prioritize this, which, if you didn't see the video, is her story of her time as a performer of Shakespearean plays and how she sort of navigated all these kinds of things that happen in those, as well as how she kind of honors the bard and his work, and opens up about her career essentially and those people who've helped her along the way. So that's a priority for me. Another memoir that I've had on my list of books that I'd like to read is by an author of one of my favorite books of all time, and that's Helen Hanff. Helen Hanff wrote 84 Charing Cross Road. But this one by Helen Hanff is called Q's Legacy, a delightful account of a lifelong love affair with books. And this kind of gives you the information, if you were curious about it, of how she came to write 84 Charing Cross Road. And how that happened was that she started to read a volume of lectures by a man named, and I'm going to have to read this, Sir Arthur Quiller Couch. And she called him Q, I think, because that's why this is called Q's Legacy. And she set off on sort of a mission to read all of the books that he talked about and that were important to read. And then she ordered them from the bookshop at 84 Charing Cross Road. And so it's quite a delightful connection to that book that I loved, and I hope that I will love it just as much. That is another memoir, and how she shares her adventures with her fans, as well as her connection to this mentor that she found in the reading world. Another memoir has been on my list for a while, and this one is called Never Far From Home: My Journey from Brooklyn to Hip Hop, Microsoft, and the Law. This is by Bruce Jackson, and I know nothing about Bruce Jackson except that he came from the worst conditions in Brooklyn, where he initially began committing lots of crimes, watched his best friend murdered in front of him, was taken to jail for a number of things, and was incarcerated for a while, and then was liberated by someone, I think his name was George, but don't quote me on that, liberated by, let's say, George, and given the opportunity to go to Georgetown. Then fast forward, Bruce ends up as a Microsoft executive and is like completely successful. So how did he move from there to there is a very unique story. It is a highly rated book. A lot of people have talked about it, and this one is just 272 pages. So I feel like I really do go through memoirs pretty quick, but also I know that some of the books I'm going to be reading this year are chunky. So I definitely took that into account when I was looking at what I wanted to prioritize here, but I can't wait to read more about Bruce and learn more about how he did this and who helped him. Okay, this one is a nonfiction about a period of time in history and how that period of time and this particular person and people that he surrounded himself with have influenced us today. This one comes out in March of 2024, so it's not out yet. I will not be reading this one first, obviously. It is called Mortal Secrets: Freud, Vienna, and the Discovery of the Modern Mind. And it is really just that. It is talking about Freud and his work in Vienna, the influence he had on the modern world, on the therapy that we have today, although a lot of people have really distanced themselves from his theories. It discusses his work with Klimt and with other people in that time period, Mahler, some other influencers of mental health at that time. It also really goes into depth about Vienna, the city itself, why it sparked these intellectual and creative people in other ways, right? Because a lot of the music that we have today came from composers who were from Vienna or who were living in that area. It also talks about the influence that Vienna has had on what we do today, and things that happen or we choose to use or drink or eat or those kinds of things today as a result of the things that started there. I had the privilege and the honor of living near Vienna for a while, and I got to travel there more than once. I would like to have said that I went there more often than I did, but I just didn't. Nevertheless, it is one of my favorite cities. And fun fact, when I went to Prague a couple of years ago for a work trip, that was also a pleasure trip, there's a hanging Freud little statue from a building in Prague. Now, not hanging by a noose, mind you, but just it's odd. I popped the picture in so you can see it. It's quite fascinating, actually. I wish I had gotten an arc of it, but I don't think it was offered to me. But nevertheless, I really do think this one will be fun. Speaking of arcs, there is one that I want to finish this year, and because the title so intrigues me, and it is also a short little one. It came out in January, so just last month, just a few weeks ago, actually, from when I'm filming this. It's called Robots and the People Who Love Them, Holding On to Our Humanity in an Age of Social Robots. Now, this is quite a topic right now, right? Because this robotics and AI movement is really making people either very excited or a little bit nervous. And so this interviews some of the foremost experts on AI and robotics and really brings this into our awareness in a factual way and maybe considering what is irresistible versus what is kind of maybe more in need of some consideration of the ramifications that it might have for us in our work and in our lives, but how we react to them, how our minds are taking in the sort of the differences between the real and the unreal, the boundaries. I find myself, I don't know if you do, I find myself when I'm on a chat trying to sort out something online that's either been an order or a mistake or something, anything online. When I go into a chat, I'm very mindful of whether or not I think this person is a bot, if you will, or an AI, system, or whether it's a real person. And I have to say, it's becoming harder and harder and harder for me to sort that out. So this is by Eve Harold, and it is really the only, not the only scientific one on my list, but it's really the only book that I will have ever really read that's nonfiction anyway about robots. My daughter, when she worked at the school before the one she's at now, was doing the robotics team in that school. And so she was in charge of supporting the robotics team in their school, and they went to different championships. And, it was really quite fascinating. And so I was drawn to this. So NetGalley did give me an arc of this, and I would like to finish this. This one will probably be prioritized, maybe even in February. Another book that involves the way we think about things and maybe involves our own well-being, so it's kind of related to a couple of these today, right, is Brain Energy. Christopher Palmer, Dr. Christopher Palmer has written this. He's the assistant professor of psychiatry at Harvard. And this is a revolutionary breakthrough in understanding mental health and improving treatment for anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and more. Now, you might wonder why I have this. Do I have PTSD? No. Do I have a little bit of OCD? Absolutely. Have I been formally diagnosed? No, and only because I didn't see an actual clinical practitioner in that regard that can do that. I've seen a number of therapists over the years, though, that are pretty clear, as I am, that I'm pretty obsessive about some things, and I've had some compulsive behaviors in my past that I've now kind of set aside, but they can still pop back up now and again. So there's that, but I'm pretty certain that I have some obsessive tendencies at least. And do I have anxiety? Yes. Have I had depression in my life? Yes. In fact, I don't know that I know anyone in my life that hasn't had depression at some point. I feel like this is not only beneficial to me, it's beneficial to me for, being with my family members. It's beneficial for me for being with my clients who may be struggling with this, because I always have to watch the line between whether or not they need therapy versus coaching, right? So I'm very aware of that line and aware of resources that maybe can help them if they're not shifting below that line, but they really do want some support. So this one's been on my backlist for a bit. I want to say I maybe got it last year. I can't remember. It might have been the year before. Let me see when it was published, and that'll kind of tell us. 2022. So I probably got it in 2022. This one I think is going to be a good read, but maybe pretty dense. Some of these can be pretty dense with information and studies and things like that. But and if you went to Harvard, it's hard to say, right? Talks about genetics and epigenetics, which I am sort of obsessed by these days. It talks about imbalances, mental states, disorders, inflammation, metabolism, and mental states, which I'm actually currently observing what the relationship to what I eat and other kinds of physical health might have to my anxiety and my mental health. So perfect timing. All right. The next one is called Why We Love Baseball, A History in 50 Moments by Joe Posnanski. This one came out in September of last year. I didn't get it for my birthday, and I don't know why, because I had birthday book money, but I didn't. But this one really does, as it says, go over 50 memorable moments in the history of baseball over the years. I don't know what all 50 of them are, but I suspect some of them are, Babe Ruth's call shot and some Willie Mays and some other things that we think of. Maybe the Cubs will be in there for winning the World Series. Maybe the Cubs will be in there because of the GOAT incident that really is iconic to that team. I don't know, but if you've been here on my channel for any length of time, I love baseball. I love watching it. It's my favorite sport. It's almost the only sport I watch. I will now and again watch a little football. Now and again, I'll watch a little bit of basketball, but not very often. So I can't wait to get to this one. And the reviewers call it somewhat of a love letter to baseball, which of course is something that I would love to read. So this is on my list to get. It has a 4.58 rating out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and it has over 1,500 ratings, and so it's a pretty solid group of reviews for sure. And so, yay! I'm in for it. And the last one I got at the end of the year, and this one is kind of, again, a historical account of something called The Wager by David Grann, a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, and murder. This is the same author that wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, which I actually just watched the movie adaptation of, but I didn't really think I wanted to read the book until a bunch of my friends, when I posted that I had watched the movie, said, "Oh no, you need to read the book. It's very different." So I don't know. It's so big. This one is not quite as big as Killers of the Flower Moon, but I don't want to get this wrong now. 1742. A vessel washed up, in pretty bad shape, washed up on the coast of Brazil, 30 emaciated men barely alive, and they had an extraordinary tale to tell. They were survivors of His Majesty's ship, the Wager, that had left England on a secret mission during the Imperial War with Spain. People say that this reads much more like a novel. It was the book of the year, I think, nonfiction-wise for Barnes and Noble. It's shown up on everybody's list, and I really think it's worth looking at for sure. He's from New York, and he has written a number of things, including The White Darkness and the collection The Devil and Sherlock Holmes. He also wrote The Lost City. Everybody says this author is fantastic, so we'll see. If you've read David Grann's books, let me know. So I think that is it. So that's 10 books on my list. So it would be 14 with my nonfiction picks from you, not 15. I miscounted. I know you're not surprised. No math for me. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what nonfiction books are on your priority list for 2024, if any. Let me know if you've read any of these as well, or which ones really kind of stand out to you as something that would appeal to you. I just think it's nice to have a little bit of a break, and I'm wondering if sometimes I get caught up in sort of the same tropes or the same pattern of fiction, and maybe a nonfiction would be a way of kind of getting out of that space or having something to read on this table when I have put down this fiction novel on this table. So we'll see. And I'd like to really enjoy this, going through the one kind of week by week or month by month. However I end up doing it, that'll be fun as well. Here's the physical stack. And then the others, of course, are either on my Kindle or they are not in my hands yet. So that will give me time to get started and prioritize the ones that I want to get to first. One a month, plus the ones you've picked for me, should be easy peasy, right? Yeah. Thanks again, readers. I always enjoy being with you, even if we're not one-on-one. And as always, happy reading. Bye.